Have you ever stopped to think about the clothes you're wearing right now? Your shirt, your shoes, even the jacket hanging in your closet. They all have one thing in common. None of them needed to exist. Because for most of human history, humans lived without any clothes at all. No shirts, no shoes, no jackets, nothing. Yet somehow, they survived. They hunted dangerous animals. They crossed rivers. They slept under the open sky. They raised families. And they did all of it completely naked. So here's the question. If humans managed to survive without clothes for hundreds of thousands of years, why did they suddenly decide to start wearing them? Most people think they already know the answer. The weather got colder. Humans got cold. So they made clothes. Simple. At least, that's what we all believe. But the real story is much more surprising. Because before scientists could answer why humans started wearing clothes, they first had to answer a completely different question. When did humans start wearing clothes? That sounds like an easy question. Just find the oldest clothes ever discovered, right? Not exactly, because clothes don't last. If you leave a cotton shirt outside, it slowly falls apart. Leather eventually rots. Animal skin decomposes. After thousands of years, there's almost nothing left, which means the very first clothes ever made have almost certainly disappeared forever. For a long time, scientists thought this mystery could never be solved. There was simply no evidence left behind. Or at least, that's what they thought. Because sometimes, history leaves clues in the strangest places. But before we get to that clue, we need to go back much further. Long before humans ever thought about making clothes. Back to a time when they didn't need them. If you looked at our ancestors nearly 2 million years ago, you'd notice something very different. They weren't wearing clothes, but they also weren't completely naked. Their bodies were covered with much more hair than ours are today. Just like chimpanzees, just like gorillas, just like almost every other mammal on Earth. And that hair wasn't there for decoration. It protected them from the sun. It kept insects away. It reduced scratches while moving through bushes and forests, and during cold nights, it helped keep their bodies warm. In many ways, nature had already given humans their first coat. So, why lose it? That's exactly what scientists wanted to understand. According to evolutionary anthropologist Dr. Nina Jablonski, early humans slowly began losing most of their body hair nearly 2 million years ago. At first, that sounds like one of evolution's worst decisions. Why would nature remove something so useful? The answer lies in something your body is doing right now. Sweating. Humans sweat far more than almost any other mammal. Your body has millions of sweat glands. When sweat evaporates, it cools your skin. Without thick body hair, that cooling system becomes much more effective. Researchers believe this gave early humans a huge advantage in the hot African climate. While many predators had to stop and rest after running, humans could keep walking, keep tracking, and keep hunting, hour after hour. This hunting method is known as persistence hunting. Instead of chasing an animal as fast as possible, early humans simply refused to give up. Eventually, the exhausted animal collapsed. Not because humans were stronger, but because they could stay cool for longer. Losing body hair helped humans survive, but it also created a new problem. As long as humans stayed in Africa, everything worked. The weather was warm, the sun was strong, a nearly hairless body wasn't a disadvantage. Then, something changed. Small groups of humans slowly began leaving Africa. Generation after generation. They traveled farther than ever before. Some moved into the Middle East, others continued north. The climate became colder. The nights became longer, and winter became something early humans had never experienced before. Suddenly, the same body that had helped them survive under the African sun started working against them. A cold wind doesn't care how intelligent you are. It doesn't care whether you know how to make fire. If your body loses heat faster than it can produce it, you die. Many scientists, including anthropologist Dr. Ian Gilligan, believe this was the moment everything changed. Humans had already lost the thick body hair that once protected them. Growing it back wasn't an option. Evolution doesn't work that fast. So instead of waiting for nature to solve the problem, humans solved it themselves. The first clothes were probably nothing more than animal skins wrapped around the body. No buttons, no stitching, no fashion, just survival. Just survival! Those simple coverings trapped warm air close to the body. They blocked freezing winds, and they allowed humans to survive in places that would have been impossible before. The strange part is, we still don't know exactly what those first clothes looked like, because time erased almost every trace of them for decades. Scientists had a theory, but they had no proof. Then, in 2003, a scientist named Dr. David Reed decided to stop searching for ancient clothes and started searching for something else instead. Something that had been living with humans for thousands of years, without anyone realizing it. Lice. Yes. Lice. Out of all the creatures on Earth, no one expected them to help solve one of history's oldest mysteries. Dr. David Reed and his team at the University of Florida weren't interested in the insects themselves. They were interested in what those insects had witnessed. Humans have two different kinds of lice. Head lice spend their entire lives in human hair, but clothing lice are completely different. They don't live on your body. They live inside your clothes. They hide in the seams of fabric. They lay their eggs there, and they only crawl onto your skin to feed before returning to the clothing. That raised an interesting question. If clothing lice can't survive without clothes, when did they first appear? The answer was hidden inside their DNA. Every generation leaves behind tiny genetic changes. Over thousands of years, those changes become like a biological clock. By comparing the DNA of head lice and clothing lice, Dr. Reed's team estimated that the two species separated around 170,000 years ago. That means humans were probably wearing clothes regularly by then. Not because scientists found an ancient shirt, but because a tiny parasite had quietly recorded the moment clothes became part of human life. It's one of the strangest discoveries in modern science. A creature that most people try to get rid of ended up preserving a piece of human history? Of course, those first clothes looked nothing like the ones we wear today. There were no pockets, no zippers, no buttons. Just animal skins wrapped around the body to keep warm. Over time, humans learned to scrape hides, dry them, soften them, and eventually stitch them together using bone needles. What started as a simple survival tool slowly became something much bigger. As humans spread across colder regions, clothes allowed them to survive places that would have been impossible before. Frozen valleys, snow-covered forests, icy mountains. Without clothing, those journeys may have ended before they even began. And as thousands of years passed, clothes changed again. They were no longer just about surviving the cold. They became a way to tell stories. A hunter dressed differently from a leader. A warrior dressed differently from a farmer. Later, entire civilizations used clothing to show wealth, power, religion, and identity. Today, we choose clothes based on style, comfort, or fashion. But none of those were the original reason clothes existed. The first person to wear animal skin wasn't trying to impress anyone. They were simply trying to survive another freezing night. And that simple decision changed everything. It allowed humans to move farther than ever before, to settle new lands, to adapt to climates that nature had never prepared them for. When people talk about the inventions that changed the world, they usually mention fire, the wheel, or agriculture. But there's another invention that deserves to be on that list, because without it, many of those other inventions might never have happened. Clothes didn't just protect the human body, they expanded the human world. They allowed our ancestors to leave the warm plains of Africa, walk into freezing landscapes, and keep going until they reached almost every corner of the planet. So the next time you put on your favorite hoodie, or zip up your jacket before stepping outside, remember, you're not just wearing a piece of fabric, you're wearing one of humanity's oldest survival technologies, a solution to a problem our ancestors created when they lost their fur millions of years ago. And perhaps that's the biggest surprise of all. Humans didn't become successful because we were the strongest animals, or the fastest, or the biggest. We became successful because whenever nature gave us a problem, we found a way to invent the solution. And maybe the story of clothing was never really about clothes. It was the moment humans stopped waiting for evolution and started changing their own future.